So the idea of you would be the idea of the subject here. And then, of course, objects would be anything else. Yeah. So that could be external to the body, like the world, or objects could be internal. Let's say forms are a good way to put it. So thoughts, yeah, the body itself could be an object, to the idea of a subject. That idea of subject we would call you or me, yeah, or I, let's say. So this is really just saying whatever pops up as two is not you, yeah? That would be non-duality, not two. Advaita. So this is really looking at the idea of the subject. And it's an idea. So when it's investigated, you see that there is no subject within the body. This is what self-inquiry would investigate, yeah? So there's a sense of being a permanent individual that arises, and if it's not investigated, essentially it's just taken to be so. Like, what do they say? Before contempt before prior investigation, or something like that. Yeah. So if it's not investigated, like who am I, or what is the I, what is the subject? Yeah. If it's not investigated, it's simply taken to be you. So the importance, I feel, is that everything comes after the idea of you. So sometimes when I give these talks, people ask me about other aspects of stuff I've shared on, like alcoholism or abuse or something. Yeah? But all of that would come after the idea of J, because everything seemingly happens to the individual. So everything is being done to or done by the idea of the individual. So if you don't see that there's no individual, then everything is taken very personally, and that can get very uncomfortable for a lot of people. And that's what would drive someone maybe into alcoholism or addiction, is to try to get out of the discomfort of being the one that's doing everything and the one that's everything's being done to, yeah? Now in that subject-object relationship, this would be the idea of the subject. So the head is presenting itself as the ultimate subject. Some texts would say that there's a relative you and an absolute you. Yeah, the relative you would be the body. That's a great idea. The only thing is, the relative you thinks it's the absolute you. Oh yeah, this is it. So the individual thinks it's the absolute. Yeah, you're not doing that movement. This is the head. It takes itself to be the absolute. Yeah. So if you don't see that you're not the head, then you're taken to be the absolute, meaning that everything happens to you and is done by you. And that gets very uncomfortable because, one, it's not true, but secondly, the mental system is super self-centered, so it's only thinking about itself. Yeah, and that's not reality. Separation wouldn't be considered reality in not to. So all this is looking at is whatever pops up in the arrangement or relationship of two-ness is negated. Yeah, it's not destroyed, or we don't have to go to war with it. It's just seen with negation, meaning that's not my absolute nature. A thought, a seer of the thought presents a two-ness, and then there you go. You would see the thought as not your absolute nature, and the seer as the thought as not your absolute nature. The seer of the thought, you could say, is your relative nature. Yeah, but that seer, that sense of being the seer of the thought, is taking itself to be the absolute. So if you look at, like, a quote by Huang Po, what is being perceived is not what is perceiving. Yeah. So thoughts can obviously perceive, and the sense of being the seer of those thoughts can also be perceived. Yeah. Yeah, Peter, ask questions whenever you want. I might not hit it right away, but I'll get it. So the idea of being the seer of the thought is that's like the bondage of self, yeah. But you can also see that, so you can perceive that as well. So what is being perceived is not the perceiver. Now, if you go into the thinking, the thought system or the mental system, you'll notice that when your eyes see something, your head interprets that, and it is putting itself in the position of the ultimate perceiver. It's not putting itself in the position of what's being perceived. You see? So in AA or in recovery, they would say your head is playing God. And Ramana Maharshi would say that's a false God. And so the head is claiming it's interpreting or perceiving everything, and then it's claiming that that interpretation is happening to you, or you're the one doing the interpretation. So this isn't looking at the perception, it's looking at who it arises to. The one that's taken to be the subject, the subjectivity. And that's not absolute subjectivity, it's relative, meaning it's conditional. Yeah, the idea of you changes. Does it not? I'm good, I'm bad. Yeah. Daughter, mother, whatever roles get taken, get put, but they all come after the sense of you. So people will spend a lot of time trying to change the roles and make things happen and organize them and arrange them the way they want, but they don't see that they're the ones that it's all arising to. So if that sense of individuality is not investigated, then you're still in the bondage of self, no matter what happens to what comes after it, which is everything. Yeah, the world only arises because of the sense of individuality. So yeah, Peter, go ahead, ask a question if you'd like. Anybody can ask a question. Yeah. If there's like general comments or shares and you want to put them in the chat, you can go ahead. I probably won't refer to them though. But any questions, feel free to ask. Yeah, because it helps the individuality kind of suss out this. The thing about the non-duality philosophy or satsangs like this, if we sit here and talk about the absolute, we're only distorting the absolute. Yeah? We're only distorting the absolute. So there's no name and form. As soon as you put name and form on the absolute, it's distorted. And you also can't see it, and you can't become it, because you already are what you're looking for. So you are existence, consciousness, bliss. That's your true nature, yes? Satchit Ananda, as they would say in the yoga or Hinduism or whatever, Advaita. So if you are already that, you can't become it because you are that, yeah? Being ourselves reality, as Ramana would say. You already are reality. So whatever's trying to become reality needs to be put into question and negated or inquired into. And that's what we can talk about, what we can see. Everything that's not your absolute nature, you can see. Yeah, what is being perceived is not what is perceiving. So everything that's not Satchit Ananda can be perceived, essentially. And then you land in what you always have been, yeah? It's funny because spiritual practice doesn't take you anywhere. In my experience, it's a negation. It's a negation of what you're taking yourself to be, and then you land in what you've always been, yeah? Which is reality. Ramana would also say all that needs to be done is to see the unreal, because that's all you can see. Yeah, that's all that can be perceived. You can't perceive your true nature. You are that thing, yeah? How to let go and why I struggle with it. How to let go and why I struggle with it. You know, the question would be, who is it that wants to let go, Peter? Who is the one who wants to let go of something? Because has your head ever been able to let go of anything? This is something that I've come across in recovery and in like trying to get out of myself with spiritual practice. Is I know after a time the head fails so much that I saw it was just going to keep failing. Yeah. I saw that essentially the mental system can't really let go of stuff that well. So this is a very common question, but the thing would be, who is the one who wants to let go? Yes, because if you are reality, being ourselves reality, then what is thinking it needs to let go or hold on to things would not be you. Yeah, that would not be your absolute nature. And this not two messages looking only at that. Who is it, or who is the one who wants to let go? Because if you don't see that you're not the one who wants to let go, You're tied to the letting go and to the holding on, and that presents a duality. Yes, you're not that duality. There you go. So how to let go and why you struggle with it. Who knows? Why does the head not want to let go of things? Because it's attached to stuff. Because it comes and goes like everything else, yeah? So this message is being free from self, not as self. It's being free from individual in the sense of individuality, not as the sense of individuality. I've tried this with spiritual practice too. I'm going to purify this body enough where it can let go of things, and it can do all of this stuff that the body can't do. Yeah, self, small s self, like the sense of I, is constantly trying to become a not I. That would be spiritual practice in a nutshell. Yeah, trying to get out of something or get into something. I want to move out of discomfort and I want to get into not discomfort. So I want to get into constant peace. But the thing is, the head is not. That's not its nature. The mental system's nature is dualistic, so it's flipping back and forth. Yeah. Oh, today I can let go, and tomorrow, oh, I'm bound up again. Yeah. There you go. Trying to train the individual to be able to let go of everything and not attach. The best thing that could happen, I feel, is that fails so much that you lose faith in that system. And then you go inquire, who is the one who wants to let go? The answer would be I, and then you would inquire into that I, that sense of individuality or me. Because Buddhism says there is no self, yeah? There is no individual there. So there's a bunch of action happening, which is trying to make you let go or hold on or move this way, or I have to get better at this and do this and do this and do this. All those thoughts are taken to be very personal, yes? It's the personalness of them, the uniqueness that they're your thoughts, that bring a bunch of weight to you, right? If I have thoughts about letting go or not letting go and they're killing me, they don't seemingly affect you, yeah? Because they're just thoughts in that case. But when they're your thoughts, then they have a bunch of weight on them. So now we're back to the sense of individuality, or I or me. Yeah? So maybe what is thinking it needs to let go can't let go because it's a system of attachment, which would be the mental system. If we lose faith in that's our true nature, maybe what it's holding on to doesn't have so much weight, yeah? Uh-huh. Yes, yes. Hmm. This is the beauty of this. You see, any question only highlights duality, so you can see it, show its face, and then you can negate that. You can know that when the mental system goes, I have to let go of this, yeah, or I have to hold on to this, that ain't you doing that. That's attachment. It's like a habit of the mental system. So the question would really be, who is it that wants to let go? And who is it that's struggling with it? It always comes back to the sense of you. But is the you ever investigated? The I. The sense of you. Is that ever really been investigated? Because everything that comes after that sense of you, all of the weight that's put on it is from the you. So it's almost like the you is the primary movement, and then secondary, third, fourth, everything else that comes after that. Yeah. So it'd be really good to see if you are the you that you're taking yourself to be. Because if you're not, everything that comes after it would lose a lot of its weight. This is the freedom from self, you see? It's not about trying to mold the head into a perfect non-attached thing, because in my experience that's not going to happen. The head gets attached to stuff. It's that you're not the head. You're not the body would be the main message of this. Yeah? You are not the body. So you could say body and mind arise together, or they run together, let's say. Yeah? Uh-huh. Good, Peter. If you have more questions, or if anybody has a question, please just chuck it in the chat there, because it just moves along the thing, yeah? So really these talks are looking at duality at how the mental system or the sense of individuality arises so that you can see it and you can see how it's manipulating things. This is key. See, when I was drinking, whatever my mental system suggested, which was most of the time insane, I took it to be my thought, and then I was doing insane things. Yeah, that's like as simple as it goes. So I was bound to the mental system, the bondage of self. Yeah, there is no self. So what is doing that? There's something identified with the mental system. So no matter how insane it is, when a situation happens and my head says that's all my fault, yeah, it doesn't matter how off or crazy that thinking is. If I'm identified with that mental system as the thinker of those thoughts, I am bound to whatever it suggests. Yes, I am bound to whatever it suggests. Except that identification is not the fact, you see. In recovery, they would say self-reliance has failed you. So relying on small s self, which would be the sense of individuality and your thinking, has failed you. It constantly misleads you, yeah? Self is what has defeated us. There we go. That's a perfect example. So the bondage of self is the identification as the thinker of those thoughts. Okay. How did you develop your thinking pattern you have now? Negation, Peter. Whatever pops up in the screen of your experience would get negated. Yes, because it's only gonna develop a system of subject to object, whatever comes up. So if a thought comes up, the inquiry inside the body is to who is that coming up to. The answer to that is always me. That answer never changes. Who's hearing the sounds? I am. Who's seeing the sights? I am. Who has the depressive thoughts? I do. Who has the happy thoughts? I do. Whose problems are these? They're mine. You see, it always comes back to the I, the sense of individuality. Yes? Now, there is no I, there is no self. It's a mental movement. It's like an emotional attachment. Yeah? When you negate that, then you sit back. It's almost like you're sitting behind the fish tank of what's happening and you can see all the fish moving around the tank. Yes, okay. That has been the most effective thing I've found, because the other way was trying to develop the mental system through some kind of spiritual practice in order to make it into a pure, perfect, non-dual mental system. And that is not the head's nature. Self's nature is to be dualistic, yes? That's how it arises in this world, through dualism. It's never going to be purified and stilled as a solution over time. The freedom is from it because you're not it. It's like a misunderstanding. It's a misidentification. So when the head used to think thoughts, I used to go, those are my thoughts, and then whatever it suggested, no matter how insane, was taken to be mine, and then the body went into whatever. And then when thoughts get presented now, they are negated because they're not my nature. Yeah, you see the habit pattern of the thinking. And it doesn't take a lot to see the habit pattern of your thinking. Notice the next time you go to bed, is your thinking about laying in bed, or is it about only past and future? Yeah. The mental system uses time as a heavy tool to bind you to what it's saying. Yeah. There was a Jay in the past, there is a Jay now, and Jay will have all these things happen to him in the future. This is the mental system, yeah? J, 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 right through, front to back. It uses time to establish this idea of J. But there's no permanent J which is going through time. It's just a bunch of different ideas being presented rapidly. This is happening to you, you're hearing, you're seeing, you're looking, you're upping, you're downing, you're doing whatever, constantly happening, and then suggesting that there was a Jay who did stuff in the past, and there is a Jay who only bad stuff is going to happen to in the future, yeah? And it's not the case. It's just how the head seems to work, and it's distorting things. And I don't really, in my experience, it's not very fruitful to try to have the head be present. Because the head depends on past and future to develop its story of you. Yes? It's just what the head does. That is its nature, to develop this story. That is how it develops the idea of you, in a way. Yeah. So a lot of people will go into spiritual practice and say, I'm never present. I have to always be present. But what they're identified with is the mental system, which is seemingly never present. Yes? So instead of trying to change it, it's simply negated. It's seen as not as you, because it's not your absolute nature. It can be perceived. That's all. It's really that quite straightforward. You don't leave the sense of I. You would keep investigating that sense of I to see if it exists as it's suggesting itself to you. And it will show its face as a non-existent thing, as Ramana would say. Non-existent meaning it doesn't have an independent nature. Yeah, because this is the head's story. That you, as soon as your head says I, it sees you as a body. Yeah. And then it sees that body as a completely independent thing amongst a ton of other independent things we would call the world. Yes? This is the perception of the body. That would be dualistic. There's a subject and there's a bunch of objects going on. All those objects are arising to a subject. Those objects could be external in the world, like like the world, walls and houses and cars and all that stuff. Or they could be internal, as thoughts, ideas, emotions, whatever form is arising. Yeah? But it's all seemingly arising to you. And your head has you painted as a solid thing. A solid, independent, permanent thing. And this is negating that idea, because when it's investigated, it's not there. Yeah, it's a sense of individuality, but there is no individual. It's like they say in Buddhism, there is no self. Yeah, it's a movement which is suggesting a thing, but the thingness is not there. It's just movement. That's life. It's like constant action taking place, which your head is suggesting is happening to you, a solid individual thing. So there's this body and there's tons of other bodies. And that breaks apart the sense of wholeness. What is doing that but the mental system? So trying to develop your mental system to make it not do that would be impossible, because that's what your mental system does. Yes? This is it. So most spiritual practice is trying to make the mental system be present, but the contents of the mental system is only past and future. Except that past and future, which is coming up through the head, is happening in presence. It's happening in a space of constant presence. You cannot be not present. You are presence itself. And everything is arising to that presence. Yeah? And what's arising in that presence is not seemingly present. It's developing past and future. That's how the head goes, yeah? Space and time. The freedom is from, not as. It's from self, not as an individual. The individual is not going to become a not individual. That would be the main point here. Yeah. So we'll never spiritually practice ourselves out. We'll never spiritually practice the head out of the sense of being an individual. Because even if you do 100 Vipassanas in a row, as soon as you get up off that cushion, your head kicks back in. And if you're taking yourself to be that thinking, then seemingly those 100 Vipassanas did not work. If the idea is that the head and the body are going to become some ethereal, spiritual, high present thing, I just don't see it happening. So essentially this message hit this body, and I saw how it was failing. And how did you develop your thinking? Well, it's not my thinking, for one. But secondly, it's losing faith in it. And then that sits you back. And then there you are, as you've always been. You are what you're looking for, yeah? Yeah. And it takes a bunch of weight off of you, yeah? So, like, little bit like transcendence or inquiry and negation, man. That would be my, that's what these talks are about. Inquiry and negation. So, self inquiry through Ramana. Who is the one who wants to transcend, Peter? You are. Yeah? So that would step you back. I want to transcend. Who is the one who wants to transcend? I do. Who am I? Where is that I in your body? If I was to ask you to hand me that I, yeah, you could not do that because there's nothing there. It's a mental movement. Yeah. So the ideas of transcending and not transcending, enlightened, not enlightened, these are all presenting dualities. Yeah. So the questions are great because they highlight what comes after the I. You see? Aha. So who is the one asking the question? Who is the one that wants to know about transcendence? Who is the one who wants to transcend? This is the thing. The sense of self always wants to become a not self. And it's super convinced that if it does enough stuff, it's going to become a not self. And it's mistaken. Because it keeps trying to become a not self. Yeah? This mental movement is trying to be a still mental movement. I have to transcend. Who has to transcend? Because what is talking to you as I is the mental movement. Yes? Aha. There's no you in the center of the wheel. There's just spinning. This is the thing. All the thoughts and ideas spin around the idea of you. If you see the idea of you is one of the thoughts and ideas, those thoughts and ideas dissipate really quick, yeah? So who is the one who wants to transcend? Because the idea of transcending and not transcending comes after the idea of you. You is the first thought. I would be the first thought, and then the world comes after that, yeah? So chasing transcendence or not transcendence, who is doing that? Because those ideas come after a pre-idea. The idea of you, me, I. Yeah? Because that I, which is presenting itself as the body, is if that's taken to be you, then whatever your head presents you, like I have to transcend, or I'm stuck, or I'm not enlightened, or I have to do more, or I have to do less, that all comes after the I. Yeah. So the I is really the root of this, of what breaks the experience apart. You are wholeness. Yeah. It's like Ramana says in this book here. There's no greater mystery than this, that being the reality ourselves, being the reality ourselves, not becoming the reality. What's trying to become reality would not be you if being the reality ourselves is the case, which he would think it's obviously the case, yeah? And Ramana would be considered like an authority. I feel like Ramana probably knows. He's probably had a taste. Being ourselves reality, meaning you are reality. So then what is trying to transcend would not be you. Yes? So rather than listening to that story, I'm going to transcend or not transcend, I have to do more meditation, I have to do more ayahuasca or whatever. All of that stuff is arising because of the sense of you. But that I, or the sense of you, if you are reality, then you're probably not that I or the body, yes? So he says the greatest mystery is being the reality ourselves. We seek to gain reality. We seek to gain reality. But he's saying you are reality. You understand? That's why it's a mystery. If you are reality, what is seeking to transcend and become reality? You are a reality, yeah? We think that there is something binding our reality. There it is. We think that. That's a thought. You think there's something binding the reality. My head thinks it's bound. There you go. We think that there's something binding our reality and that it must be destroyed. So, Peter, take out the word destroyed and put transcended in there. We think that there's something binding our reality and that it must be transcended before reality is gained. That is the perfect reply to what you asked, Peter. Because you are reality. So whatever is trying to transcend or whatever is thinking that it's bound must not be you. That would be the perceived. Yeah? That's not the perceiving. You would be the perceiving, not the perceiver. Ego. Ego is after the sense of individuality, Samya. An ego has to arise to somebody. Yeah? Ego would be presented to you as thinking. That thinking arises to something. There's something that thinks it knows the ego. Yes? That thing, that sense of you that knows the ego, that would be the bondage of self. No, that's not my experience. That is the bondage of self in recovery, at least from my experience. Ego would be the thinking, let's say, that arises to something. If I ask you, who does the ego arise to? You say me. That me is not awareness. That is the bondage of self. That has to be, you have to negate both of those. The ego and the one that's feeling that they're the one that's seeing the ego. That is duality. 1, 2. Thoughts, the seer of the thoughts puts you in a duality position. The thing is, the seer of the thoughts, your head then claims that that's awareness. And that's still the bondage of self in my experience. That's not the drop of relief. You negate both of those. I'm not the thoughts, and I'm not what's taken to be awareness. Because it's the head labeling the seeing as awareness. So it's it's another step back. Because the sense of being the one who sees the ego, that is the bondage of self. And in recovery, this happens a lot. People say that I see my thoughts, yeah? But then what happens when another thought is presented, like maybe you're worthless and you should go drink, is they don't see that what there is being labeled as awareness is not awareness. It's actually the head. And then they're bound to the thought, maybe I should have a drink. And guess what happens? They die. Yeah? So there's ego. The sense of the ego arises to the sense of you. Your head is going, that is awareness. And that would be a misclaiming. That's a duality. Exactly. Your head is claiming awareness. Your head's going to claim everything. When there's seeing happening, when I see this thing that holds my hot water for tea, yeah, my head right away goes, it's a thermos, and then it goes, you're the seer of that thermos. The idea of you comes after what happens. Hearing of a sound, the head goes, you're the hearer. Oh, head, please go away. Shoo, shoo. Stick with the, who is that head arising to, Samya? I hope I'm saying your name right. Samya or Samya, I think. Oh, you're in India. Nice. Oh, Bangalore. The head is arising to somebody. It's that sense of you that it's arising to. That needs to be inquired. Who am I? Where is that I in your body? You're in India, so I know you can get all the Ramana stuff. Because I was just there like 9 months ago. You are reality, yes? So like Nisargadatta Maharaj says, whatever is being perceived is not what is perceiving. You can perceive both the ego and you can perceive the sense of you, which is seeing the ego. Both of those are perceived, which means they are not the perceiving. Yeah? If you're stuck to being the I who is seeing the ego, that's the bondage of self. Good. Good, 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 good. So it's not so much, oh, head, please go away. It's seeing who is that head arising to and who wants it to go away or who wants it to stay there. Yeah? That's what Ramana would say, like the root of what's, of that bondage, yeah? So we think that there's something binding our reality. Ego would be the answer, what a lot of people would say. My ego is binding my reality. I have to kill the ego to get to reality. What is saying all of that? That's not you if you're reality, yes? Uh-huh. Good. And then it must be destroyed, so like an ego death. Okay, hold on. I just have a few more questions here that I'm going to... Does it evolve with everyone through life? I'm not sure what that means so much, Peter. You'd have to explain that more. How do you coexist with society, when you know the truth? AJ, who knows the truth? Yeah, because the statement that you make right there, which is a good one to see, is a dualistic statement, yeah? How do you exist in a society? That would put a you here and a society out there, and it would put a huge judgment that they're all lost in the ego and that you know the truth. So the big question is, who is the one who thinks they know the truth? Because that wouldn't be the truth, yeah? It puts you right into dualism right away. How do you coexist with a society lost in ego when you know the truth? Being the knower of truth is the bondage of self. Yeah? That's a perfect, you can see that real clear. And that is not a comfortable place to be. Because now you're in a broken relationship with society, let's say. To be the knower of truth and then nobody else knows anything. Yeah? Lost in ego. That's a bondage, man. So yes, coexisting in that way is very, very difficult. Uh-huh. Yeah. I can see the places where the head is not free, but something in me is free. You are freedom, Samya. This is what the message would say. You are free. I can see the places where the head is not free. Who is it that sees the places where the head is not free? Yes? This is the question. You have to step back. You're talking about what comes after the sense of the seer. Yeah? Now there's a sense that you're the seer of what's going on in the head. This is what gets investigated here. Who is it that's seeing? The answer would be I. Yeah? The answer would be I. That I is a false I. As Ramana would say, it's a false God. Something is playing God in your life, and that would be that sense of individuality. Self-reliance has failed you, yeah? So who is it that sees the places in the head that are not free? And if they're not free, yeah, the idea that they're not free, if that's not your thought, then you're not going to worry so much about that thought, yeah? Because you are freedom. You can't get there. What's trying to get there isn't going to get there. It's the head. Yeah. So sit with that more so. Because the head has you chasing. You're not doing those thoughts, you see. What can't keep it? There you go again. Samya, same thing. Yeah? It's like we said earlier, the head, in my experience, the mental system does not stabilize. It does not stabilize. It's an anxious system. It's dualistic, so it's going up and down. Oh, I'm enlightened today, but yesterday I wasn't enlightened, and tomorrow I don't know if I'm going to be enlightened. Who are all those thoughts arising to? If those are your thoughts, then yes, you should worry about them. But if they're not your thoughts, then that would change the weight of those thoughts a lot. Yeah? Story, task, something. You're still leaving the I. So I'm just going to leave it on what I said before. Every move your head makes is a move to try to look and try to find what you are, and it's a mismovement. You have to stick with who are these thoughts arising to. Yeah? Otherwise the questioning just goes on and on and on, and you're seemingly not getting there. Yeah? You're not getting to where you already are. Because the seeking has you seeking. But if you are reality, what is seeking is not you. So it gets negated. When the head presents you with something, it's like trying to look back at awareness. Your head is trying to catch it. Yeah? And it can't do it. Ooh, it can't move fast enough. The head. So it's just inquiring into who. Yeah? This is all. This is the thing. There comes a point when you have to ask who's asking these questions. Who wants to know this stuff? SMB is thinking in duality. I don't know what that means. Does duality have stages? I would just keep questioning them. The truth. However, the body continues to function in an egoic system. The body continues to function in a dualistic system. Yes? This body here and then environment here. But there's something pervading that, which is space. Yeah? You are not space, but it's like in Tibetan Buddhism, they talk about like the spacious awareness, let's say, yeah? That pervades the body and the environment. The thing is the body is taking itself to be an independent, permanent thing. The body is taking itself to be existence. Yeah? But there's something that's keeping this whole thing alive in a way. There's like an electricity running through everything, and it's the same electricity. It's keeping the mind going, the body, the world. It's pervaded, let's say. Everything that's arising is arising into space. So it's like Jesus said, you are in the world, but you are not of the world. So there's a relative you, which is in the world as a body, but that's not absolute you. That's not your absolute nature. But that relative nature thinks it's the absolute you. Yeah? This is why in recovery they say something is playing God with you. Something is playing God. Something is seeing the world, interpreting it, and saying that it's your interpretation. And that's a misinterpretation. Because any interpretation would be a misinterpretation. Yeah? In a way, my head, I noticed this, is only distorting what's going on. Something happens, and then my head paints a picture of what it's telling me is going on. Yeah? That's amazing. And if you're taking yourself to be those thoughts and the thinker of those thoughts, you're bound to that interpretation. You see? So you are a reality. He's not saying you're going to become reality. Ramana is saying you are reality right now. So if you are reality, yes, then what is seeking for reality? It mustn't be your absolute nature, no? Exactly. So if there's any ideas, everything that's being perceived in your experience, including all these ideas that are being written down or questions, they only get negated here. They're not followed because anything that the head presents is an interpretation, meaning it's not absolute reality. Because you are a reality. Being ourselves reality. The thing is, if whatever is seeking for reality, let's say the head is constantly seeking for reality, it's not going to find reality because you are reality. You are already what you're looking for. So what is looking mustn't be you. Yes? Because you are what's looking. So any searching for reality would be negated. If you follow the seeking, that is the bondage of self. You are misidentified with the seeking, and now you're a seeker. And now that becomes addiction. Yes? Spiritual practice, people get addicted to it. Well, the head gets addicted to it. They're not doing that. but they're taking themselves to be the one who the head is arising to. So now all the seeking has developed a seeker. Yes? This is the thing. But there is no seeker. So you have to inquire, who is the seeking arising to? Because if Ramana's right, which I would probably say he's right, then you are what you're looking for. Being ourselves reality. You are reality. So what is trying to become reality mustn't be you, because you're reality. But you can see what you're not. And you can see the head try to become reality. So rather than listen to that head and go, okay, those are my thoughts, I have to become reality. No, you listen to Ramana, or the logic of non-duality. You are reality. So the only movement that can happen is to negate what you see. And guess where you'll end up? In what you are, reality. Okay. I'm just going to look at the questions here. So when I got into manifesting, I've been... Oh no. Manifesting, I've been wanting my dream desire reality. Understood. How to offer compassion for the body and mind as an extension of everything. There, you just answered your own question, AJ. How to offer compassion for the body and the mind. Yeah. As an extension of everything. There you go. Right. I'm just going to read these questions really quick. AJ, God is everything. If I believe and trust with faith, as you meant, my ego will say I'm not worth and need to change how I feel about myself or in God's world. I don't know. How does this fit in with cravings and recovery if I crave? Okay. May. So, coming from the recovery standpoint, cravings are of the body. Yeah? Actually, depending on where you are. So, I don't know you or how far along. And maybe you're brand new to recovery or something. How does this fit in with cravings and recovery if the craves? Yeah. If you're new into recovery, go to meetings if you have cravings and call sponsors, yeah? The individual, when it comes to recovery, in my experience, the individual needs to be sorted out and settled down. And that's what the 12 steps are doing. So if you're brand new, May, in recovery, yeah, then the answer would be go meetings, do service. That would be it. Go to meetings and do service. Because if you try to come at cravings, whether they be mental or physical, if you try to mess with them, they're only going to increase. Yeah, because it's like a closed system, you're thinking. So everybody's thinking is like a closed system. It's just self-centered, yeah? So if you have cravings, May, and you're early in recovery, go to meetings and do service. This is it, yeah? So rather than look at self and not self and negation and inquiry, go do service. Because service and stuff will help break the mental obsession with cravings. Yeah. This platform's a bit weird because I can't see you or talk to you, so I don't know how long you've been in recovery. But if you're having cravings and you're an addict or an alcoholic, meetings and service, or do something to put the fire of cravings out first. Yeah? That would be my the biggest thing. Because cravings arise in the body and the mind, yeah? But if that craving is really hot, you can't like move to negation or inquiry. When things are on fire, you have to put the fire out, and then you can come back and look at them, at who is the fire arising to and who is the body and what's all this arising to, yeah? But if you have cravings and stuff, just shut the game down. Yeah. So, I hope that helps, May. Yeah, how does it fit in with cravings? Because it is the body and the mind that are craving, and you're not that. But when you're in cravings, which I know from experience personally, it's not a time to start inquiring into who you are. Because that inquiry, the head will claim it. Just like we were saying with Samya. The head will claim that movement, and you will get bound into that movement, May. And once that circle starts for the recovering addict, at least in my own experience, it makes it way worse. So just go to a bunch of meetings or call some sponsors or something, whatever you got. Yeah. Okay, okay, okay. Have self-soothe in a way, let the energy pass, maybe. Hmm. Yeah, Samia, I think it's different. If you're not in recovery, it's different. Yeah. So I end up talking about addiction and alcoholism because that's my experience. So, uh, approaching craving from an inner child kind of thing, I don't really know what that means. But if you're in recovery, don't even think any of those thoughts. Just go to meetings. Because otherwise you're playing with the mental system. So, yeah. May I ask, what is the rule of duality? Duality is two. Two. So this is about non-duality. That's it. Whatever pops up as two is not your nature, not your absolute nature, yeah? Seer and seen, that would be two. Thinker and thoughts, that would be two. Thoughts and the seer of thoughts would be two. Hearing and the hearer of thoughts would be two. Ah, okay, okay. So this would be duality. This is a message of non-duality. So whatever pops up as two, that ain't you, essentially. Yeah? Being on Insight Timer is my version of the meetings, I guess. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, when I say meetings, sorry, I should. When I say meetings, I mean like 12-step recovery meetings. Yeah. That's really funny. Mm-hmm. 12-step recovery meetings. Yeah. So I often talk about too. There's like a text called Yasankana, and there's a practice called soft butter method in that text. And to settle down the system over time, I found that super helpful. And I made a little audio course on it, but Insight Timer has all these rules which I didn't know. So if you want that little audio course, you can message me on Insight Timer and I can send it to you. It's only like $5 or something. Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So being ourselves reality, or being reality ourselves, as Ramana would say, is very important. Because if you're taking yourself to not be reality, then there's a strong urge that you've got to do a lot of stuff to become reality. Now, what's trying to become reality would be the unreal. Yeah? So it would be the non-existence, the body and the mind. When we say non-existent, that means it's not independent. It's not an autonomous system. Yeah? So the head is always trying to become a non-head. It's trying to become autonomous and it can't do it. It's a non-existent thing because you are existence. Yes? So this is a movement of negation. This is not like a 10-day, 10-year meditation retreat. This is not a course, a 27-day course on how you're going to become presence. The message is you are presence. Yes? Now what hears that when I say it is the mind. Your head hears that message, and then the head claims that message and says, I am presence. That I is the body. Yes? That I is not you. That is the message. The head claims that you are God. Who is God? It's putting itself in the position of the individual who is God. And then you run into the question we had before. Well, I'm enlightened, but everybody else seems to be really unenlightened and stupid. What is that but duality? One, two. Two-ness. Yes? Ah. Yes. So the presentation of you being a thing, a permanent individual thing, is the presentation which is taken to the courtroom and put into question. Yes? You are not that presentation. You are being. You are being reality. And then you can see your head go wild and try to claim it and try to grab it. I'm going to become reality. If I do this method, that'll get me closer to reality. And then the head's like, ooh, okay, I'm going to do this for 2 years and that'll get me closer to reality. And then I'm going to go to this to get reality. It's just all this movement mentally, yeah? If you're taking yourself to be that movement is not going to become reality. It's going to have all kinds of ideas and misunderstandings about reality. Yes? And it will have us chasing for lifetimes after reality. It's like when I took yoga teacher training, the message I would constantly hear, oh, it's going to take lifetimes. It's going to take lifetimes for you to be free. That message to an alcoholic or an addict is like suicide. You're never going to be free. That's an insane idea to me. It's going to take lifetimes. Yeah? So then why does Advaita Vedanta say that you are reality? How can it take lifetimes for you to become reality if this message right here is saying you are reality? There seems to be something at odds. Maybe it's going to take lifetimes to become reality because what's trying to become reality cannot become reality because you are reality. What's trying to become reality is a coming and going within reality. What's seemingly not present, what's never here and now, is coming and going through a constant nowness. You can't not be here. The body seemingly is in the past and the future and worried about this and this, but what you are is only here-ness. It can't be anything else. So it's only through negation, because any move your head makes is a mismovement, because you are reality. Yeah. Cynthia, God not hard. Is it knowing it's not God in me, rather that it's God? There is only one. That one is God appearing as me. Becoming real so much reality. I am reality. I don't know, Cynthia, really what you mean there. Is it knowing it's not God in me? You know what's helpful, Cynthia? I don't know if you're in the recovery community, but when it comes to God, the most useful thing is to know that I'm not it. Whatever is perceived within this experience, whether it be thinking or emotions, it's just not, that ain't it. Yeah? It's people say that in recovery a lot. I don't know what God is or who God is or what I don't know what I am, but I know what I'm not. Yeah? Okay, Cynthia, great. Oh, yes. Man, recovery's so good because it's like if somebody's in that system, it doesn't matter where they are in the world, yeah? When it comes to God, man, as you've heard many times, I'm sure, you just know that you ain't it. So whatever pops up in your experience presenting itself as God, just negate that, essentially. So somebody asked earlier, like, how does this, whatever's being presented here come? It's through negation. It's not through acquiring or affirming a bunch of stuff. It's only through negation that it's worked for me, which is why I'm here doing this, yeah? Because I feel really, this has been so beneficial to me because it ended all of the chasing. And it also ended all this idea, what is God? How do I become God? Mostly, how do I get away from this sense of insanity in the head, yeah? The answer is there's no problem, in a way. How do I get away from all these problems? Well, those aren't your problems. The thinking is a habit pattern. I mean, it's not hard to look at that. Anybody who's been in any kind of psychotherapy can see the repetition of the thinking. Most of the thoughts come down to a few core beliefs. I'm worthless, everything's my fault, whatever, yeah? It just comes down to that. All of those thoughts are being presented to the idea of you in the center of it as a permanent individual thing. And this is saying that permanent individual thing is not a permanent individual thing. So self, Cynthia, like you would read in the big book, as small as self is what has defeated us. Well, how is it defeating us? Through the bondage of self. There is no self. So there is no self. So what's bonding us is our identification with the mental system, yeah? Yes. Okay. Damn, people in recovery, cool. That one is God appearing as me. Sorry, I'm just reading back on your question, Cynthia. That one is God is appearing as me. But what is claiming that is the mental, yeah? So that one is God appearing as me. Who am I? Who is the me is what this is looking at. Yeah? So if it was looked at through the eyes of recovery, self, small s self has defeated us. So what is self and what is us? Yeah? Self would be the sense of individuality. So if you go back to the question, that one is God appearing as me. As who? As who? Yeah? Who am I? Who is the me that seemingly all of this is coming up to? Because that me is self. And self is what has defeated us in recovery. How? Through our identification with it. Okay. Either through relapse or it's so repetitive, no wonder people. The thing is with the repetition of thoughts is if you try to stop thoughts but you're still taking yourself to be the thinker of those thoughts are only going to get reified and increased by your ownership of those thoughts. Samya. If you want thoughts to stop, see that you're not the thinker. Yeah? I heard that once in a satsang and I never forgot that. It's not about this is not about the contents of your experience. It's not, so if you go back like what we were just talking about, it's not about the idea of God and who is God and what am I. Who are all those thoughts arising to? Because the reason that they're happening at the rate that they're happening is because they're taken to be yours. So a thought is like a quick instant pump. It's like a punch, it's like just a movement, a thought. It's like a breeze. The thing is, when it's taken to be your thought, it's taken to be personal. And then it builds into a story, and now it's seemingly repetitive. Because it's taken to be yours. So, and again, any idea the head presents has to be knocked back. Who is that idea arising to? Who is the one that's asking the question? I. Yeah. Because again, you are reality. So what's presenting itself as trying to get to, or trying to get away from, or super repetitive, you are reality. Yeah. So anything that's presented is not you, essentially. And then when you see it's not you, let it go on. You still take care of the body. I mean, you want the body to keep operating. Yeah. But it removes the personalness of it. That's the beauty. And the thing that benefits really is the body. Not by changing the body, but by losing faith in what seems to be the dictatorship of your body, which would be your head. The head is like a dictator in my experience. Yeah? The mental system is taking itself to be reality. It's taking itself to be the ultimate perceiver. And you can see how false that is. Because when something gets presented, like in your life, you can see your head distort it right away. And then you can sense the feeling that your head is saying, that's your thought, that's your thought, that's your thought. You're the seer, the taster, the toucher, the feeler, everything, the thinker, yeah? This is looking at that. That's it. It's negating that, actually. It's negating that idea. It's not trying to better what's coming up. It's seeing that it ain't happening to you. Yeah? Hallelujah. That is the release of the bondage of self. The bondage of self is that the relief from the bondage of self is seeing that there is no self. So there's a bunch of action happening, but that action is like habit patterns of the mind and the body and whatever, yeah? It's not about changing those habit patterns. It's just seeing that it ain't arising to you. Because you are yet another idea which is being presented. And you come and go. Every night when you go to sleep, you seemingly disappear. We'll work away from self and practice more on how God works in my life today. His will and life, not my ego. Yeah, so it's a negation. Negation. Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Craig. That hasn't worked for me, but give it a rip. Ah. What's worked, what's really given the drop of relief is negation. Hmm. It's not changing self, it's not trying to deteriorate self, it's just losing faith. And if you come from recovery, faith in self is what has defeated us. Recovery is beautiful because it's like an open book text. They give you a big book when you go in, and all the answers are in that big book. Self has defeated you. Self reliance has defeated you. What are the manifestations of self? Self seeking, self centeredness, resentment. There's 100 ways or something it says, yeah? There's probably 1,000,000 ways self presents itself. And it is what has defeated you. So, in my experience, the recovery program is not altering or rehabbing self or the mind. It is seeing how wild it is and losing faith in it, moving that faith into a higher power from the 12 step. You don't try to mold self into a better self. You don't try to make it closer to God. You lose faith in it. Yeah? And then what happens when you lose a sufficient amount of faith in it? You sit back into what you've always been, being ourselves reality. Not becoming ourselves reality, being ourselves reality. Present tense. Being, being, being. What is seemingly not being here now would be considered not you. That just gets negated. It doesn't, you're not denying it. You're not even trying to stop it. It's just seeing it arise and knowing it ain't you because you can see it arise. That's all. A thought comes up, I need to get closer to God. Ah, okay. I need to get closer to God. Who does that thought arise to? Me. Who am I? Where is the I? Where does it arise from in the body? That's it. That would be inquiry. Yes? A negation would just be whatever's popping up in your experience is not you. You can perceive the eyes, that's not you. You can perceive the ears, that's not you. When you hear a sound, you can perceive the head, go, that's a car, that's not you. And then you can perceive the head, go, I'm seeing the head, hear the sound, that's not you. Not you, not you, not you. Yeah? That's all. That's all. You can only land in what you already are. That's the only place that you can land. And then what is trying to get there is never going to get there. So one of the best ways maybe to see that is to keep practicing until it fails to the point where you lose faith in that. Where you lose faith in trying to make the mental system see God. Yeah? Good. This is one of the benefits, definitely, of spiritual practice. Even recovery, I tried to get it. This is the habit of the mental. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. I just found that failed so many times and over and over again that when I heard you're never going to get it because what you're identified as can't get it, oh my God. It just lifts all of the work that you think you have to do to get to God or become God or whatever the hell the head is going to present you, yeah? The beauty of this message, in a way, is what you're identified as in the body is never going to get this. So when your head is trying to figure it out and flailing around trying to figure all of this out, it's never going to get it because it can't become a not head. Yeah. So whatever's trying to get somewhere isn't you. Yeah? Because you are reality. And then there's an idea that reality is bound. We think that reality is bound. That's the key. Think. Who is that thought arising to? Negate that. Negate that, yeah? Oh, man. It's really beautiful. It's given so much relief in this life. Not really by doing anything. Just inquiry and negation. I'll read this one more time here. If there's any more questions, please ask away, yeah? There's no greater mystery than this, that being the reality ourselves, present tense, not becoming, being reality ourselves. What is trying to become reality? You. Yeah? There's no point. A lot of us here are in recovery. Well, the ones who've been talking, yeah? This is a very honest program. Yeah? What is trying to become free? You. You are trying to become free. Yeah? So the you that's trying to become free, he's saying being ourselves reality. So the greatest mystery is we seek to gain reality. So the you that's trying to gain reality must not be you. Because you are reality. Yeah? We think that there is something binding our reality. Who thinks? I think. So I'm back to the I. There we go again. We think that there is something binding our reality and that it must be destroyed before reality is gained. He says, it is ridiculous. Because you are reality. Huh? Oh, man. So when the thought comes up, I need to do this, or I'm not reality, or I'm lost in depression, or I'm this and this, that mustn't be you because you are reality. Yeah? Okay. Something here from Samyant. Let's see. Something is scared for its survival, and if I stop self-improving and doing things, though it's not my actions, that have kept me alive. Something is scared for its survival. And if I stop self-improving and doing things, well, if you know Ramana, yeah, he has a quote that says, the one you're trying to improve doesn't exist. There you go. That's a quote from Ramana Maharshi. The one that you're trying to improve doesn't exist. Something is scared for its survival. If it's scared for its survival, it mustn't be you, yes, because you are reality. So if I stop self-improving and doing things, though it's not my actions that have kept me alive, it comes back to who? This is the thing. Yeah, so something is scared for its survival because it's not a thing. The head, the mental system is like a ton of, it's like a machine gun where it's like shooting constant bullets, yeah? But there's no constant thing there. It's just a repetition which is presented to you over and over and over again. The idea of you is just presented to you over and over. You're the seer, you're the hearer, you're the thinker, you're the this, you're the that. Yeah? Aha. This is the thing. There's conscious contact, and then the head claims that and claims that you're there. But there is no solid you. It's just a movement of event after event after event, very quick, yeah? So it's scared for its survival. Yeah, self would be scared for its survival because there's nothing there. As soon as you see through it, it loses its hold on you. That's the thing. It's scared for its survival because there's nothing there that's surviving. It's like a picture show, yeah? Life is just moving constantly over the screen of spacious awareness or whatever. And anytime the head comes back in, that is part of the movement. It is not the screen. That's it. Because you are reality. And reality would not be thinking, no? Reality would not be thinking. Yeah, because the head will throw that fear thing for sure. I know that, yeah, but you're not doing that. That's a habit. The head. Uh-huh. Yeah. If there's any other questions or something, please write in the chat. The main thing I find in recovery, for those in recovery, just from my own experience, is the system is settled way down, but people are still identified as self. So they're still identified as the doer of resentments, let's say, or the doer of what's being done. And the reason I mention it is because I've met a bunch of people who've been in recovery, they say 20 years, yeah? But then one day the head presents, you should go have a drink. Now, if it's not super clear that they're not self, that they're not the thinking, that thought, as we know of those in recovery, is going to be repetitive. If you're taken to be the thinker of it, it's going to be repetitive, and eventually it's going to take you over, and you're going to drink, yeah? Because they're still bonded to being the thinker. There's a little bit of space from the thoughts, but they don't see that they're not self. It's still taken to be them who is the thinker of those thoughts. And if those thoughts come back and that's not a very clear view that you're not the thinker of those thoughts, a lot of people relapse because of that and then they die. Uh-huh. So that's the bondage of self, is the identification with the thoughts as the thinker. Because there's a thought in the head which is saying you are the thinker of those thoughts. Mm. Recovery is amazing because if you go listen, you learn a lot from people who have had, who have been through the trenches of relapse and things. And they come back with these nuggets of like, I didn't see self in that way, and then it bites it, yeah. And then unfortunately they relapse, or, yeah. Hmm. Okay. So if there's any other questions or something, please feel free to ask. They make the best devotees, yeah. I used to be a devotee to the head. We're all devotees to the head, to the mental, yeah, until you see you're not the mental. Uh-huh. Devotees to the mental and then devotees to the mind, but or devotee to the mental and then devotee to a god, but if you're still taking yourself to be the devotee, you're bound. That's what I've found in my own experience. There's still the sense of you there. Whether you're devoted to God or you're devoted to gambling or drugs or alcohol or sex, if there's a devotee there, it's going to be bound to something. Yeah? That's not freedom to me. Freedom would be unbound. Yeah? Unbinding from the bondage of self. Mm-hmm. Devotee. There would have to be someone there for there to be a devotee, yeah?